and I'll like, okay, so let me go back to the spreadsheet. So these two things, this is time zone
Okay.
and this is date and
Date and
time.
time. Okay.
So if I go back to the spreadsheet, now you're on the spreadsheet now, right?
Mm-hmm. No, no,
Okay.
you're on the indicator page.
The indicator is what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, now I'm getting confused.
yeah.
Um, so, so down here at the bottom, this indicator thing has always been here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But what I did was I took the things that would allow you to not to turn this on and off. And I since I was creating a whole new version, I moved them up here and made them part of the mix. So I haven't added anything, I just moved stuff around.
Okay.
So now you can turn the date and time on from up here,
Oh, I see. I see. Yeah.
right? Um, and I did make one small change in how it worked, and that is this time zone thing down here wasn't very intuitive in how these worked. They kind of used an and thing, and I did that because it was easy in how to enter these, and I didn't realize you could enter multiple values before. But now I've turned it into an or, so it's actually pretty intuitive. So it's just this or this or this, which is really easy. But now
Hmm.
you see there's pairs, right? They never used to be pairs like that.
Yeah.
So what you're seeing here is you're saying it'll like this is everything from midnight, 000 is midnight to 7:45. And then there's a gap, and then it's everything from 10 to 23:59,
Oh, okay.
right? So basically, if you want to know what that is, if you have a look, that's New York. What we're doing is we're cutting out that little bit of New York between 8 and 10. You know that
Yeah.
time when New London and New York overlap?
Hmm.
That's what
Yeah.
we're knocking out.
Gotcha.
Now, what I did was I put the same times for these for the other two major time zones, so you can try turning those on and off as well if you like.
Hmm.
So
I played around with that actually just the other day
yeah, so
for
on
the
the one
first
you played
time.
around with, this will not be very intuitive because it
Yes, it was
uses
not.
yeah, because it uses anding instead of
Uh,
oring. And
it took me
so
a second. I was just like, just kept punching stuff and looking at it and going, what the fuck
yeah,
is it doing?
now it'll be intuitive. You'll be able to look at it and you'll be able to just turn that on and it'll make sense how it's working.
Gotcha.
And
It
the
didn't
reason I
help
did,
on the strategy that I was doing anyways. And so once I got it figured out
okay,
and I looked at it, I went, oh shit, that didn't help. Okay. Yeah, it's actually
yeah, okay.
lowered my net profit. So I was just like, fuck it, turned it back off. And so this is the first time I actually played around with it. And I was just what I was trying to do is kill the time basically like 5 o'clock my time until about 8 o'clock my time. That
Yeah,
that period
and
where
it wouldn't
every
have worked, by the way, very well. In fact, the way it was set up, it may not have been doing what you thought it was doing.
I was able to finally get it because I had one trade on screen where it was like
Ah,
during that
okay.
time that was just straight consolidation. I'm just like, I don't really want it to take trades during that period of time. Nothing's really happening. And so I just kept playing with it until that
Well,
trade
let me
disappeared.
show you how it'll be easier for you now. So not only did I move days and time restrictions here,
Hmm.
but I also sorry, take it back. Moved it here.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, here you see days and times restrictions. Here you see days and times
Trade.
restrictions, time zones,
Hmm.
right? So that's TZR. That's that should be DNR, DNT. Sorry, I'll change that to D and E, DNT. That I've or I'll change something else to DTR. One of the ways it'll all match up, but right now it's not matching up to the spreadsheet because I changed something somewhere. So, but anyway, no, see up here it says D and T.
Yeah.
So I'm going to change that to D and
What?
T. So the but anyway, up here you'll see it says days and times restrictions.
Hmm.
So this is the show mix where you get to see the individual things.
Hmm.
These up here show you where it's not restricted. That's what all these do.
Oh, that's cool.
Now, now this thing here used to be
I
down
like
in
the
here.
visual.
Yeah, so it always existed, but it was down here, and you had to know about it down here. And I thought since that's working the same way as the other things. It's kind of working as a filter. I just moved the pieces up here, so now it's all part of it. Now, the
Mm,
only thing that's a little different is you only have one show up here, but you got two things here, right? So this is the
yeah.
days and time, and this is the time zone.
Time zones.
But these two here are both incorporated in these dots.
Okay.
That's why you've only got one showing thing up here,
Gotcha.
right? Because these both just determine on when you're turning things on, off in the times of days or days of weeks or whatever, right?
Mm,
So there's no point having two lines or anything. This just shows you when it's there or not. And so the only thing difference between the two is the time zone one is these three things, and
hmm.
the other one is these three things.
Okay.
So this one is really just days of weeks, is really the way this is set up, these three here,
Hmm.
right? So you got your, I've set it up so that's Sunday, that's Monday through Friday, and then that's Saturday, and or I think that's how it is. And you get to choose what to do with each of them. Or actually, no, Saturday I think is the 7th. So that's Friday, and Saturday I don't have on at all at the moment. I think that's how I've done it because it starts at 1, not at 0. There's 7 days in the week. So that's got to, and I know one is Sunday because I do the whole biblical thing. I
Hmm.
actually hate that. Everybody in the world starts their working day on Monday. I want Monday to be number one, but we
Right.
got history going for us here. History trumps what we do in modern times. So
Right.
so 2 is Monday. Yeah, so it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then that's Friday. And I've left the 7th off because there's no trading on Saturday
Yeah.
anyway. So there's no reason. Whereas Sunday, our Sunday, at least in my time zone, it actually starts trading somewhere in the afternoon. So
Hmm. Yeah. Mine starts at like what, 5 p.m., something like that
yeah, and I
on
think
Sunday.
mine's 7 or whatever it is. I can't remember, but it's some time during the day. So 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 I've broken that up into two components in one place, but visually it's all just that line up there. It just kind of adds them all up and says this is when you're trading and this is when you're not trading
Gotcha.
visually, right?
Nice.
And it's now on by default where it used to be off by default.
Okay.
But it just made sense to make it part of this mix. It makes it a lot more intuitive.
Yeah.
The only reason it wasn't was a lot of this stuff I added in when I built this new version, and that stuff was just always at the bottom. I just never thought to move it up there, but I'm getting more refined, I guess.
Hmm.
So yeah, so this should be a little more intuitive for you now. You'll see these with these two things added in here. Um, Now the other thing to keep in mind, see what else is there. Nope, that's about it. You got your visuals and you got the things, and like I said, I changed the algorithm to be a little more intuitive. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
Now, let me show you how that relates back to the spreadsheet. In this spreadsheet, I've got what I did is okay, let me go back here. I have used and I playing with different things on and off. Actually, it's actually easier to show on the spreadsheet than here. Because you kind of know all the indicators now. So
Hmm.
there's the big candles, there's
Hmm.
the consecutive candles. Now you know about the date and time, right? It's not going to be,
Yeah.
I'll change that DTR to DNT before I send it to you.
The
That's
Garmin.
that Galvin Klaus
Yeah.
volatility.
Yeah. Okay.
Garmin Klaus, sorry. Garmin Klaus.
Is it Garmin?
Yeah, it's Garmin. The
I
reason I
thought it
remember
was Garmin.
Garmin is because that was my first GPS
Yes. Yeah.
before
The
they had
Garmin.
cell
Yep.
phones, right?
Yeah.
So when I see the name, I go, I recognize
Yeah.
Garmin.
Yeah. That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Yeah. Um, and then that's the
All right.
TC. Now the ATR DC2, what that
Is
is
that your new Delta?
yeah, that's the Delta thing. But the reason it has a 2 after it, and this is good to have it recorded for you to, maybe you want to write a note down on this if you go back over the recording. That one's near the top, so because it starts with an A. So here it is, ATR cross Delta.
Hmm.
Oh, I hope it's CD and not DCR. I don't know which way I did it. Anyway, might have to change it in the spreadsheet. So many things, man, to get every little thing right, you know.
Hmm.
Okay, so what I've done is because I'm not adding an indicator, I'm just changing a factor. All I'm doing is I'm turning that on. So if you see a 2 there, it means it's with that turned on,
Okay.
right? So it's the same indicator, but a different setting in the indicator. And I
Okay.
wanted to encapsulate that on the spreadsheet. So on the spreadsheet, I just called it ATRD, just put a 2 after it. Now, if you're
Yeah.
wondering where 1 is, it's here, it's hidden in here. So if I go unhide, the reason these 2 are hidden is because they're the foundation. They're on every single variant. So
Oh,
you can
okay.
it's just assume that it's there, right?
Yes.
It's the
Yeah.
foundation of the thing. And that's the same with the slope, right? It's a
Hmm.
foundational thing, so it's just assumed on for
On.
everything.
Yeah.
So you can just hide them because you can just assume they're there. That's but they are there. Where's hide again? Come on, there's a hide in here somewhere. Am I gone? Oh, I know what happened. Probably need to click up here. There we go. Hide
There it is.
columns.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're assumed because they are foundational.
Hmm.
The other one, the stretch 2, I made a variation on the stretch. Same thing, I changed a parameter. Now, the way this is reflected in the name, right, is when I changed when I changed the ATR, because that was the first one I made a change on,
Hmm.
was the delta ATR delta cross or cross delta. It's easier to say delta cross. I might change the name of that. No, it's got to be cross delta because that's algorithmically the way it works. So regardless what I want. So the first variation has a D here, and then the variation on the stretch I put a small s. Now, not
Okay.
everything has a delta variation. So not everything has a variation of delta cross. So if it's only the stretch that's changed, then all you'll see is a small s. So you
Okay.
either see D and S together, or just an
Hmm.
S, or just a D. That gives you all combinations. So I'll cancel out of that because I didn't change anything. Now, if I just flip through here until I find one, like see, there's one where there's a small s, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously a DS. I don't know if we'll have one in here at all, but no, looks like there's not going to be one. It's just a matter of luck. You're going to see one or not. And it doesn't look like there's any Ds in here in these group here. So, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what this is all about. Now, how's your math? I mean, were you a high school guy or advanced? Where
Not
were you with math?
like high school. I didn't
Okay.
love math. I didn't love math when I was younger, and now I definitely regret
Well,
not loving math.
yeah, I was a bit different. My problem was I kind of yeah, I my math was okay, but due to family breakup and all that, when it went to the advanced stuff, I just turned off of school because I was not
Yeah.
there.
Hmm.
Parents broke up and all that shit happened. So anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
the the um the so do you know all how to get all combinations of something, how that works?
No,
Okay,
I
so
don't
so
think
because
so.
I want to explain to you where the number 128 came from.
Sure, sure.
Okay, so let's suppose you have A, B, C. I think we need 3 to make it easy and obvious, right? So, whoops, that doesn't work. A, B, C like that. Otherwise, we don't get all combinations. So, that means that's got to be an A, a B, and a C. Okay, so if we put a 0 here and a 1, actually, we don't even need 0. We can just assume 0. It makes it cleaner to look at. Actually, no. I'm going to use 000 as the first one, right?
Hmm.
And then 001. And 1 means that that's activated. And then I go 010. What have I done here? I need more than that to get all combinations. Okay, so the next one would be 011. Okay, let's take C out of there because then I need 8. combinations, and I want to get everything. And this way we got all four. So this, if I take these zeros out, this is all combinations of two items. So 0 and 0 means you have neither. 1 means you have one, let's call this A, and this, well, actually, A and B. I did this as a matrix and I shouldn't have done that. Let me get rid of this. I was doing this wrong. Okay, so this is all combinations of A and B. Either you don't have them, so 0 is don't have it, and 1 is have it, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Right, so 1 of B, none of A. 1 of A, none of B.
No.
1 of A, 1 of B. That's all combinations of A and B. That adds up to 4.
Gotcha.
Right? There's 4 combinations with 2 things. Now, if we add C on, right, we could say all of those without C is half your combinations, and all of those with C would be your other half the combinations, correct?
Hmm.
So that would double it. That would be 8, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So now if we want to have all combinations A, B, C, and D, what is the process going to give us? It's
So
going to
we're
get,
gonna end up with what, 4, 4, and 4, so 12, right?
well, no,
Is that right?
16, it's going to be double. So if you have A, B,
Oh,
and
okay.
C, right? If you now have C, you now have 16 things, right?
Okay.
So if you add D on, it's now everything without D is 16. Everything with D is another 16. Everything without C is 8. Adding everything now with D is 16 because you've got 8 without and 8 with it. In other words,
Hmm.
every time you add another factor and you're using it kind of like an on-off switch, right? You double it. It's a double, gives you every combination.
Okay.
That's the mathematics, right?
Yeah.
So you can tell how many things you need to cover every combination just by taking 2 to the power. So if you got 5 things, 2 to the power 5 is how many combinations, gives you every possible combination. If you have 6 things, 2 to the power of 6 gives you every possible combination of 6 things. Well,
Gotcha.
the reason I have 128 combinations is because it's 2 to the power of 6. I have 6 items.
Yeah.
So I've literally done every single combination of these 6 things. That's why there's 128 variations. I've
Hmm.
actually covered every possible combination there is with
Yeah.
these 6 factors. It took me the entire week because I was going to do 4, and then I thought, well, what if I do this? Hey, that's working. Okay, so that's 5. And then what if I do this? That's 6, and then that's 6, and I got 120. I went, I'm not going another factor. I'm not doing 256 things. 128 nearly killed me.
Right. It's like, yep.
Okay, so that's why there's 128 of these, is because if you count, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Did I do that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm missing a combination. Oh, hang on, maybe that's 2 to 7. Hang on. 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. Correct. Yes. So 2 to the power of 7 is 128. Sorry,
Gotcha.
I was at
No, you're all right.
64. Yeah, I was at 64 before. That's where I got the 6 from, and then I doubled it just on Thursday. I bit the bullet. So now then it was 2 to the 7. Okay, so that's correct. I have every combination of 7 factors, just in on off, no gradients. Um, well, then the problem is, how the hell do you even look at this, right? That's
Hmm.
a problem, right? I don't know how to look at this. So what I did, well, what if I take things I care about and I just pick the top 10, right? Now I've got something to value, right? So that's what I did. So what I've done, have you ever sorted do you know how to sort the spreadsheet? It's pretty easy.
Not off the top of my head. No.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from where I want to sort. And I want these titles because it's easier than trying to figure out column numbers. I'm going to hold the shift and the control key down. I'm going to hit my right arrow key, and that'll take everything until it comes to a space, which is everything I want to sort. Now I'm going to keep my fingers on the, and I'm doing this audibly so that if you go back and play this, you'll know how to do this. I'll let ChatGPT tell you anyway. I'm going to hold the shift and the control key down. I'm going to hit the down arrow key. And now I have all of the data marked, right? All the data has been marked.
Yeah.
So now I can go up here and I can go data, sort. It's got to be short range and advanced. Why they didn't do this normally, I don't know. But you got to go to advanced. See, it says column C. I don't want to do. I want to do by titles. So I'm going to say has headers. And it's always going to be from Z to A because we want the top value, not the, you don't want to go from 1 to 100. You want to go from 100 to 1, so to speak, right? Because we want the best, not the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And now you just pick the thing you want to sort by. Now I'm going to use these values down here because I already know I've put numbers down here ordered by from highest to lowest or whatever. Actually, no, I'll do these. Sorry. I have to actually reverse that if I go the other way because the ranking starts from 1. But like if I want like the highest win rate, then I want to start from the highest number. But if I want to rank, number 1 is the highest number, so it reverses. And all these down the bottom here are ranks that I've created. So let's go by, say, I don't know, win rate. So if I go by win rate, and then I'll go back to the top here. So now you see win rate starts from 1 and is
Mm-hmm.
in order, right? None of these others are in order because they don't work the same as win rate.
Yeah.
So we'd have to sort by those, and then they would be from 1 to 128. And we can just confirm that as your 128 variations, 2 to the 7th. So it all comes to power as a 2, which, by the way, is how computers work internally. Everything's binary.
Yeah.
That's why,
Yeah.
by the way, I used to work on the machine level when I started programming. I used to work in binary because that's the level of, I don't do it anymore because we use higher level languages now. But because I used to work in binary, I still pretty good to my powers of 2 off the top of my head. You ready?
Yeah.
2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, 2048, 4096, 8192, 16,536, 64,560 or something like that. But anyway, I'm starting to
Nice.
forget. Right.
Uh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, but because I used to deal with those numbers
Yeah. Yeah.
all
So
the time.
much. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just knew them off by heart. But yeah, I'm starting to get a bit rusty. Um, so when you sort this, here's the cool thing. I've set this up over here to show you what is the most important thing. So what this is telling you is that TZ is contributing 18% of your win rate for the top 10, right? So what
Hmm.
it's saying is if you look at first 10 of these, whatever that is,
Mm-hmm.
um, your time zone is, and look at this, time zones on all of them, right?
Yeah.
The time zone is a top contributor for getting a top win rate, and it's also showing equally is consecutive candles and equally is big candles. Big candles is equally contributing.
Huh.
And my change to RTT, that thing
Yeah.
is a little bit less, and you can see, my stretch 2 is contributing, but not as much as the others.
Yeah.
So, and these graphs will change too. Also, when you do it, these graphs will change. These graphs just reflect what's up here. It's just you're seeing in graph form instead of number 4. So this allows you to see which factors are playing the most.
Interesting.
And
What
this is just,
how did you get the information? Did you manually input?
yes, I did. Please don't remind me. I still have nightmares. No, I'm serious. On Friday night, it was about 3 in the morning, and I was slow, and I was making mistakes because my brain was fried, and I had to
Yeah.
go down to like quarter speed to get the last bits in because my brain was just completely fried. Because I've been doing it for 4 days. It took me four
Yeah,
days
yeah.
to enter all this stuff,
Oh
right?
my God.
I mean, look
Ugh.
how much of it. That's a lot of
That is
information,
a
man.
lot of information. Yeah, that's why I was. Where did you get all that information from?
And all of that information has come from here.
And so you're
But
just going through and just flipping them on in their default modes
yeah, I just
and
turn
then
different things on and
taking
off. Yeah,
and then
so
just
I
taking the information and inputting it into the spreadsheet, right?
yeah, I was just using this matrix here,
Yeah, yeah.
and I was just turning them on and off. This is your binary. You just turn these on and off, and you have
Hmm.
your binary, right?
Well, it's funny because that's what I've been doing
Yeah.
as well, but I just haven't been, entering it all into a spreadsheet. Like I was literally just been clicking them on and off and just playing around with different combinations of them. Like I'm like, okay, I clicked that one on. Now let me click that off and turn this one on. Okay, now I did that. Let me click that one and that one on. Nope, not that one. Let me unclick that one and click this one and click that one. And I was playing
Well,
around with those in both the entry and the entry direction in
right.
different combinations.
Yeah, no, I get it. That's what I've been doing. But the reason I did this time was one, I thought I had a real winner here,
Hmm.
and it had the reason I did it with this one was there's two reasons. The reason I hit every combination was I wanted to see which things might, as we've seen so often, start losing in forward data.
Yeah.
I wanted to see if there's any combinations that didn't lose in forward data. And then I wanted to know which ones did and which ones didn't for every possibility,
Yeah.
right? And the only way you can do this is record the starting point of every possibility and then record the end point and then
Yes.
compare what happened to every single one of them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to
And
have to spend an
determine what
entire
the
week, you know, 4 6 weeks from now, whenever we decide to do
yeah.
this whole thing again, and then we'll have those comparisons, right?
Yeah. Find what
But
the
bec
common denominator is
but
of
because of
ones
this,
that
I
like
did
to
a couple of
shit.
yeah, sorry, because of this, I went and did a couple of things to make life easier. One, on all these things that I ranked as the top 10, so I'm going back, I did not do this to all of them. Anything where the top 10 were, I added these fields in. So if I go to the top here, I added a place where I can add in those rankings. So this particular one on the overall ranking was 8, and I'll show you how that is produced. On the profit, it was 31st in profit and so on, right? And these values here show up here. I added a line here. So that's overall profit, win rate, risk reward ratio. So you can just see here where one of these sit. Now, I was getting tired of entering this crap, so I only did it on the top 10, right? You
Hmm.
won't see this line on anything that's not in the top 10 of something
Yeah.
because I just get fried. But I wanted to put it in there. The other thing I did was all these factors, the risk reward ratio, the win rate, the average risk reward ratio, sorry, and the what was the other one? The basically, oh yeah, the win rate. They're now all here. I made sure that they all show up here. This is all the back data, which means you can now instantly look here and look down here and see what's different between the back data and the current point, right? So 3587, 3587. So you can see on this particular one, nothing's changed,
Yeah.
which makes sense because there's only 13 trades and look at the win rate.
Yeah.
So if you had one that was a lower, sorry, whoops, did that wrong. Have one that come on, we can find one that's it's probably not going to be on that one because that one. Let's try and find one that's on risk to reward ratio. Reason is I'm using this one is because that's not going to have as high a win rate. Like here's one that's fairly low win rate.
Yeah.
So this was probably different. So that's 3619. That's 3134. So yep, there was a recent loser,
A
right?
dip. Yeah.
But that's the nice thing is you can check everything at a glance now between here and down here, right? And most of what's down here is over here, so you could go either across or down, doesn't really matter.
Hmm.
But you can say, okay, 94% is still back data, so there's only 6% in forward data. There was 22 trades, now there's 24 trades, so there's two new trades. And it looks like both of them were losers. So this is not looking like a good combination.
Yeah.
But who knows? It might have just been bad luck, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you can check every single factor now that matters between here and down here, um, which I think is going to be really good with having all these combinations. And the top 25% I just thought might be interesting. So 25% is 32. So that's 32 items of 128. I think that's correct. 32, 64, 128. Yeah, correct. So the top 25% is looking at 32 instead of 10. Um, just in case you might find that interesting, right? And so basically this information here is this up here. The only difference is that this is in order. I sorted here. These are obviously I can't sort, or all the columns would be columns would be shifting around.
Yeah.
So I sorted it from top to bottom, and then I took those values and I put them in a graph. So every time you sort all these values, this graph and these items are going to move around a little bit, and
Hmm.
then they're all based on what's up here. So that's basically what I'm doing. So when 6 weeks goes by, we just double these columns and I'll spend another, well, actually it won't take a week because I was also entering it into not just into the spreadsheet, but I was also entering it into um, I was creating all the individual variations.
Hmm.
Whereas the next time around, all I have to do is enter new data. I'm not creating variations.
Yeah.
So it will be, it might be 2 days instead of 5 or 4 or whatever it took me. It's a bit of a blur at this point.
It's
Right?
all meshing together.
It's all meshing together. Yeah.
I can only imagine.
But I thought it was worth it. I think now the nice thing is the software that I want to build, the one I've been talking about, will do all this in seconds. What I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
did in a week, it'll do probably in a few seconds.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because when you were showing this, like I'm thinking, man, this is exactly like what we want
Yeah.
to build.
Yeah,
Like
it is. It is. But also doing it manually, it helps me um, plan or design the software
Yeah.
because I'm seeing what do I want to get out of it, right? Like I
Yes.
wouldn't have thought of this top 10 or top 25 if I hadn't done all this manually. And I'm going, how do I reduce this down to something a little better to look at, right?
Yeah.
And so this is actually help and the manual trouble I had going back and forth and the issues I had and where do I want information and stuff. It's helping me in the design. So it's worth doing it manually once. And
Hmm.
also we may get some good combinations out of this. We might find out of the 128, we might find four, maybe if we're lucky, 12 or something that are actually
Yeah.
going forward profitable because we've got every single combination.
Hmm.
Um, so some other things now, that's just kind of the doing things statistically. That's the statistical side. Now I want to show you some specifics because these are important things for you to know, especially because you're big on reversal strategies and you've actually convinced me I am now. This is my first reversal strategy, by the way. And I was inspired by you, right? This cross delta ATR was specifically something I kind of noticed, kind of something happening, and then I played with it, and it all came from you and seeing the value of things. So let me show you some specifics which will help you going forward in understanding stuff.
Okay.
So the first one is I completely used, and you'll notice this has got to do with that chat GPT thing I sent you, by the way. So now you're going to see where that comes in. So on this moving average with slope exclusion, I took out the slope exclusion completely, right? So now you see it says from 0 to 100. There's no slopes I'm excluding.
Hmm.
I'm using this differently. And the reason being is because this is different to trying to ride a trend, right? I want to exclude too shallow of a slope if I'm trying to ride a trend, because if it's too shallow, it's not a trend yet.
Yeah.
It's ranging, right? But now I'm trying to get a change in direction. And so if I'm trying to get that right on that edge, that really beginning of a change of direction, maybe it is a really shallow slope. And I was finding when I was leaving this for the trend following instead of the reversal detection, it was knocking out that beginning reversal point a lot.
Hmm.
And so I just took it off. I just made it from 0 to 100. then the other thing I thought, well, if that's not good for reversals, maybe also the Frammer is not a good one because the Frammer is really good for detecting that ranging and getting rid of it,
Yeah.
right? There's nothing better. So then I started playing with all these MAs, and as you can see, I built up a lot over over the years, right? And I found this super smoother was magic, right? So the super smoother ended up being my thing because I could put that thing. Well, here it's on 12, a length of 12. But on another place where I found it also was the best. I'll show you where that is in a minute. It was using a very small number, and it seemed to smooth really well, even with a very small number. It's a really, really good moving average thing. And so I wanted to see why it works so well on small groups compared to a lot. Because a lot of these moving averages, if you say, average, do a smoothing on like 5 bars, it's not that smooth, right?
Hmm.
Whereas this thing just is really smooth on even small numbers like that. So this is completely different setup because I'm trying to detect that reversal point. And you can see it's pretty good, right? I mean, it's really only missing a bar or two, and that's pretty good for a smoother.
Yeah.
Um, the other place I used it is, was it in the eight? It might have been actually in the ATR cross delta. Let me go down to that. Yeah, I changed it here because after having the success on the um on the where I just showed you, what the hell that thing's called. I thought I'd
The slope
The
exclusion.
slope thing, yeah. I thought I'd try it back here, and so I went through all of these again, and again the super smoother came up best, but I only had it on a length of 4. And that's what I'm saying. How is this smoothing so well on such a small length? And I'm not sure if I did on this one. No, this one's on 5. Oh no, hang on, maybe it is down here. Yeah, so this isn't showing it somewhere on one of these, but it could be anything in here because I did it somewhere else down the track. I changed it on this down here to match what was up here. And actually, let's do that so you can see it. I'm not going to go and try and find the one I did it on. That's crazy. But if I just take these values over here and copy them over, hopefully you got a better memory than me because I might need your help to remember them all. You can see what it looks like. So I should be okay, but there's only 3 values. So it's 644. I can remember that. 644. That's okay. So let's copy that over.
646.
No, 644. So it's 6, 4. No, it's not that one. That one's not used. It's down here. 4.
Oh, that's why I was looking at the wrong one.
And then this one's on. Yeah, that one's not being used. You have to check this for this to be used.
Gotcha.
And that's just really crappy.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I like to turn on is this ATR 1 and 2. And then, oh, is this one not updated? This one looks a little weird. Um, Maybe this one hasn't got the update. Maybe there's a version update because this is not looking as it should look. What I found is this flip thing actually comes in handy. But anyway, this might not be the updated one. Let me flip through and see if I can find one that looks updated. Is that the one I just did, or is that a new one? Nope, there's there. This is the one this is one I know is definitely updated. Oh, I don't have the flip ATR, and I bet yep, that's got the 644. Yeah, I see where you got the 6 from. Yeah, I did the same thing. Um, okay, so the reason, by the way, I don't know if I ever showed you the reason this is called the cross is because if you blow it up, and I turn that off, I take the normalization off. Oh, that's right. I've got an updated one where the normalization doesn't do this. Because if you normalize everything and you make everything 0 to 100, then it shows up as 0 to 100. I found a way of fixing that. But I'll put the latest one up there for you. But um, this is like two slightly different lengths of the ATR.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we're doing in the delta is we're actually just looking at the difference between those two different lengths. That's basically what we're doing,
Okay.
right? And what I found, because I kind of asked ChatGTP what the hell that was on something else, and I said that's actually considered detrending. You take away the long-term trends when you do that, and you're just seeing short-term stuff. Apparently, that's what it does. If that's correct, you got to be a little bit suspicious on that because ChatGPT is only telling you generally what people say out there, right? It's a
Yeah.
statistical thing. And so many people are wrong when it comes to indicators, right? Now, you
Yeah.
know how many people are
Oh
wrong
yeah.
about shit, right?
Oh, 100%.
Right. So, maybe
And
I
so
have
it's
to look
kind of
at that
just an
now.
echo chamber.
Yeah, it's just an
Chat
echo chamber.
GPT just
So,
feeding you
yeah,
an echo of lies.
so maybe I have to look at the math and figure that out myself. But that's kind of what it said. So this is the actual original two things crossing, although you're not seeing them cross because I got them normalized. But if I don't normalize them, they're too small because the other thing is normalized. Actually, I could take the normalization off that, and then you could see it together, probably. And then I'd have to put that on. But then it's not zeroed. Okay, so that's why I did that other thing, was so that I could actually get them to overlap properly. And you could still see these separated out. And I do have that somewhere. I just don't have it on the one we're looking at. But you can see how this seems to be a little bit ahead of these things crossing. It's really weird. It's actually almost predictive in some places.
Hmm.
And then I guess in some places it's kind of on par, and in some places it might even be a little behind. It's kind of interesting how this cross of these two ATRs um, creates what is created out of it. Really unique. I haven't seen anything on TradingView that does this, by the way.
Yeah.
So let's not tell anyone about it. This might be our little bit
Yeah.
of secret
Yeah.
sauce, right?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
But that's what I'm doing, and that's why I called it a cross, because it's actually taking two ATRs and getting a difference out of them.
Yeah.
Um, but that and the super smoother, those are the foundations for all these other combinations, and it's just you get some remarkable things out of it. Um, so okay, so there's one more thing I wanted to show you. That was the first thing because you probably wouldn't have realized that because you didn't write all this stuff, right? So that might help you a lot when you're thinking of your reversal strategies.
Hmm.
I got one more thing to show you, which was my inspiration, which made me do an extra 64 to get to 128, which I regretted the minute I thought of it. Because my first instinct was I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
And then I had a little bit of a break and went, oh, yeah, okay, I'm gonna do this. It was a very low energy.
Yeah, like okay. I have to.
Okay, so here's what it is. Usually on this um, highest lowest, I usually have this around 8, right?
Hmm.
And now you see it's on 30. And usually I'd have some sort of an ATR multiplier there, and what that would do is help push it a little bit away from the line, right?
Yeah.
Well, I was able to turn that to 0 because I set this to a large number, and that's how I've been able to get those big moves. Now, so that you understand what it's doing, instead of just going, oh, okay, a large number works, I want you to understand this stuff. This is why I'm recording this, by the way. So let me make sure I've got one that, yeah, so this has got the S on it. So this one's actually doing it. So let me show where there's a big move. There's a big move there that it picked. And why? Because you can see it came pretty close to some things, right?
Yeah.
Here's what it's doing. That 30, it's actually looking back and finding the highest and lowest for 30 bars. So if we go and if you want to see what it's doing, you can just stretch this out to 30 bars, right? And you can put this at any point, like this is like a critical juncture here, right?
Hmm.
So if you put this here, it was able to go under that because somewhere in 30 bars, it had something that was pretty close to that. Well, it didn't quite, but it's also slowly finding its way up as well, right?
Yeah.
So it managed to have a low enough point to keep it below this, even though it was moved. So it obviously moved up here a little bit from this, right? But it was able to keep a low enough point to be under this when it hit it because of this 30 bars back. It was low enough here.
Yeah.
And so if it was 8 bars, right, it probably would have crashed into this because that would have been back about here. And this dip up here wouldn't have been enough. So, right, because it's not only just the lowest point, it's the lowest point plus it's kind of slowly working its way up.
Yeah.
But it'll keep working its way up until it hits this point. Like if this was flat from here on in, eventually it would get to here. But it is a bit of a slow movement. So that's what that 30 bars is doing. It's given a much bigger chunk to find the lowest point to work from.
Hmm. Nice.
Right. So, and the ATR, what the ATR does is it takes that lowest point, and if you get like a big spike, it adds whatever amount of ATR, like 0.5 or 0.7 or 1.3 or whatever you chose, will add that spike to it. And that's when you get those down dips, right?
Yeah.
In the ATR, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was another way of getting past these. But because I'm looking back so far, I don't need the ATR. But when I was only looking back like 5 or 8 or whatever, that ATR helps me get over little quick blips.
Mm-hmm.
So remember you saying that on the 15 minutes, those things would get you out. That's
Mm-hmm.
my way of getting around it.
Yeah.
Right? Is using this highest lowest point for a number of bars. So that's what that's doing. So having an understanding of that might help you with those settings a little rather than just turning them on and off, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You kind of get
Yeah.
an
I've turned them on visually and again just
yeah,
sat and played with the settings on them before.
right.
Just to watch like what is it doing? Like how is it functioning? If I bump this number up a little bit, what does it do? If I bump this number down a little bit, what does it do? And so
Mm.
yeah, because I'm again very big visually. Like that's just how I
Yeah,
process
yeah,
information is to be able to look at it and go, hmm. And so
yeah. So my last thing I want to show you, and this is pretty interesting, and I got to close one of these, like maybe these top 10. I'll just close that one. I found out that TradingView has a limit of 50. I can't open more than 50. And even with 50, it'll start closing them on me. And I looked in their specs and they actually say 50 is your limit. It'll start closing them, right? And so I had, when I update, like if I have to update the code now with 128, I got to do it in batches
yeah.
because I can't have 50 open I mean, 128 open at a time, just won't let me. Excuse me. So one of the things that I found really interesting was, okay, closed one, was profit factor. So if we go to, and I was getting too many here, so I started putting them in categories. So yeah, I know. Just when you start using large numbers of things, everything becomes important. Things that weren't important become important, you know.
hmm
Uh, Let me close this group. Like using group is important. So, tabs aren't so tiny, just everything. So let me just make sure all of those get opened up. Go back to the beginning, give it a minute. So if I go down here, now I can go over here. No, I can't. Profit factor is one number I don't have on here because it was the very last thing I literally, that was like my Friday night thing. The last thing I added in was my top 10 profit factor. So, but I can look through, I know what the number is. Look at that for a profit factor.
Wow.
Yeah, I know that's right. These are your top 10, right? There's none
Yeah.
that are tiny. Look at this 40, 40, 43, 43, 40, 40. 17, I think, is the smallest number,
Yeah.
right? 11, sorry, 11 is your 10th one. I would consider
Huh.
that like a high number.
Yeah.
Uh,
11 would be high. Yeah, it would be like, oh yeah, that's really good.
But the real question is, um, will any of these with really high profit factors actually last? Maybe
Maintain. Yeah.
maybe just getting to that high number might mean it's over optimized, right?
Yeah, yeah. Or curve
Right. In
fitting it
fact,
up.
any of these top 10 might mean that it's over optimized for, and so, except there's one that's the most interesting one of them all, which is this one. And this is the last thing I want to show you, and I'll turn off the recording. This is the last thing I put in place, is this score. And let me just sort by that. And I just go down here by score. Oops, I did that wrong. A score should be other direction. Hang on. Score should be high to low, because obviously high score is going to be better than low score. I got to remember, because rank is in the opposite direction to score, right? Rank number one is obviously your highest point, whereas a score, your highest number is going to be the actual highest number. Okay, so, oh, hang on. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, score. So what score is, basically all as I do is I took the highest possible score. So if you take 128 and multiply it by 3, right? Because I got 3 factors, right? I got profit, win rate, and risk to reward ratio. If you consider all of those important, and we know we have 128 possibilities, right? Then those 3 together is 3 times that, which is 384, right? So if we say number 1 is the highest, so if each one of these was a 1, then our highest possible number is 3. Each one would be number 1, because you can't have 0. So if I add each one of these possibilities together, it'd be 1 plus 1 plus 1, which would be 3.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right? Which means that the highest number here, my highest, is actually 384 take 3 would be the highest possible number here, as a score, because scores are highest to lowest, not lowest to highest, right? So, but anyway, to make this all easy, so you don't have to kind of convert that all in your mind, I just created a rank percentage. So the highest percentage is the highest combination that exists of these 3, right? So 7 plus 1 plus 13 is 95% towards the highest possible score. That's what's happening.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? Right? Because we never get 1, 1, and 1, right? It just doesn't work. We don't get 1, 1, and 1, right? That's the highest we get, is 7 plus 1 plus 13. So, and I don't use profit factor, by the way. I just use those 3, because profit factor kind of is, win rate and profit factor are kind of the same thing, I found out. So this is the highest possible score. So when you do this, I've actually got the top 10 for that as well. And so to me, possibly the most interesting thing is the highest possible rank percentage of these 3 things combined. Because now you're not optimizing for any particular one of them.
Yeah.
It's a combination of profit plus win rate plus risk to reward ratio. And you're just balancing them all and seeing what your highest score of balancing all 3 of those. And so this, where'd I put it? I don't have it. Yeah, this is that. This is the highest of all those 3 things combined. And so your number goes down here, like we actually have 5,000 or 6,000 here in some places. Like there's a 5,000, but some of them aren't that high. Some are like just like in the 3s. So I'm kind of wondering if this is what the reason I did this is what I want to see is if this ends up being the one that where the top 10 out of the top 10, the most number of the top 10 doesn't degrade going forward
Yeah.
because you balance the best of those three.
Mm-hmm.
That's my
Instead of
thinking, and I don't know.
concentrating on one specific factor. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm kind of wondering if this will be the thing, right? That makes the most sense. I don't know, but I thought it was worth getting a top 10 and of it. And so I made a list.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens, right? But we now have a combination of every single thing. And now, if they all go bad, if every single one of them goes down in forward trading, what that's going to mean is the fundamentals of using that the slope and the ATR delta, that fundamental base is fundamentally wrong.
Yeah.
If that fundamental base is not fundamentally wrong, then the only one that should go down is when some other combination of factors is causing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know the answer to that. We'll just have to try it and see.
Yeah.
I do know that if you go to other time frames, this will fail because the way the ATR and the slope and stuff has been optimized, it's going to be time dependent. Like, so for example, if you went to double the time frame, if you went to the 30-minute, you're probably going to have to take those 30 bars on the stretch and change them to 15 bars and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
This is just isn't going to work across time frames.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it works across pairs, I don't know. I didn't try. I thought I'll leave that sort of thing to you. Um, so now I have a question for you. It'll take me a little time, but not that long. Do you want me to share 128 variations?
I don't think so. I think what'll probably be easiest is just for you to have them running forward test and see what they
Right,
do.
right.
Right. Because I mean, basically all we're doing is just watching them. So
Yeah, we're just
it's
watching. There's
not,
nothing to play. Yeah, there's
yeah,
nothing
we
to
don't
play with.
really need to tweak with them or play with them. We're just kind of running an experiment at this point to
Right.
see what they do over the forward testing to see if we can't shed some light on, what's going on. And so,
Mm.
and, in that instance, I think it's easier, for you to just, check on them ever so often, see what they're doing, see which ones, might be dying and falling off, and then just, eliminate those out of the bunch or whatever, notate them
I'm not even
somehow.
going to look at them for a month. There's no point with
Yeah. Just
this is
let
a
them
different.
run.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've got every possible combination there is. I might as well just wait a month and then just create a whole extra bunch of columns in the spreadsheet and let the spreadsheet do some comparisons and stuff.
Yeah.
And right, I mean, I'm handling this kind of in a statistical way. I'm not handling it as a look at each one individually way.
Hmm.
It's just too much data to do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Think you're
but
right.
maybe you might want, one of the top tens or something. I mean, just to play with, just to see, just to give you an idea. If I go here, 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 these are
Yeah,
the
sure.
five different top tens. Which ones would you find interesting?
Let's see.
By the way, there's a lot of overlap. Like, you know, the top 10 here, there's probably four that fit in here and three in here and that sort of thing. So,
Yeah. Maybe the overall.
yeah, okay. So give the top 10 overall and
Yeah.
then, yeah, you can play with that and see what's going on and so on. And yeah, this thing is incredibly useful. I will show you one more thing that, see, how do I do it? I'm going to have to just create a new layout for a minute. Just doesn't matter what it is. If I go to save this, control save, nope, sorry, control D. You see how it's got all this junk in here on the name?
Hmm.
And then after the name, it's got the name of the layout. Okay. So because I'm dealing with so much crap, well, it's not crap, but dealing with so many variations, I needed a way to keep things organized. Otherwise, there's no way I could have spreadsheeted all this. I need to know things like the order is not going to change and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what I did was I downloaded a this thing here, Spruce Marks. What it does is it orders all the tabs. I mean, it orders all my bookmarks in alphabetically. So if I add a new bookmark, it just automatically keeps things alphabetical.
Hmm. Yeah.
So what I did whenever I did a Control D, it was super important for me to take off this beginning part
Yeah.
and just have this. Now, with LLL, it's meaningless. But when the name of it matches this here, then, so you see, it's already, the front is off because it's already saved. Um, then I can keep everything alphabetical in my tabs according to what this is. And that was critical for me to be able to put on spreadsheets, keep track of things, and all the rest of it. And I tell you that so that when I give you this, um, if you use something like this thing, bookmark my tabs, that's another download I got. It will bookmark. Um, Actually, it won't for you when you first get them. You may have to do the same thing I did and bookmark into one at a time. There's only 10, so it's no big deal.
Yeah.
Um, Take that thing off the front, get this thing that does the tab order stuff, that's whatever it is. And just when you start getting in large numbers, it becomes useful because that thing on the front that they put is a random thing based on where the price is at the moment. You can't do anything with it from a sorting
Yeah.
position. So you just knock it off the front. I wish they did it like they did my old Drupal thing where the important stuff they put on the front and they put a pipe separator and put the other stuff in the end, but they didn't do it that way. So yeah, that's the only other little trick I would tell you. If you're dealing in large numbers, that becomes a thing, right? It becomes important to think of these things.
Yeah.
And since I was dealing in large numbers, I kind of every time the number bumped up by two, my thinking of how to be more organized bumped up as well.
Right. Yeah.
So
It's like,
anyway, I
okay,
think
now
that's
how
all
am I
it
going to
was.
keep this organized?
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna stop the recording.